Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be doing another episode of my 100 Films in 100 Days series, and I want to go ahead and preface this video by saying, today and specifically is a filler episode. What does that mean? That means I'm pre-recording it. I am actually filming this on Boxing Day, December 26th, and that means, oh no, he's cheating 100 films in 100 days, but also that means, if you are seeing this video, I'm currently tragically ill or in an accident or having the greatest day of my life, and I'm just too busy to record one of these episodes. So I want to apologize in case this video randomly happens to come out during me doing some big series, like maybe I'm watching the old Batman movies right now, or I'm watching all of the Harry Potter movies, or I'm watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and this just randomly cuts it off with this random movie. I wanted to apologize for that. But today we're watching a movie called My Old Ass. This is a movie I personally have been very, very excited about. I have heard a lot of good things, and I've seen a lot of videos talking about like the most underrated movies of, I believe it was 2024, and this video comes up a lot, and it's just one that I really wanted to get to see, and I just hadn't had the chance to. So we're going to be watching it. It is on Amazon Prime for anybody who's watching along with me. But all I really know about this movie is Aubrey Plaza is in it, and I think it's a coming-of-age movie slash sci-fi because there's like time travel elements, maybe, who knows? Let's see. Let's dive into this, shall we?
Dun, 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 dun. 100 films in 100 days.
Okay. I liked the movie. I don't think that any of the advertisements or marketing for what this movie was ever did it justice, and I don't think any of the reviews that I've ever seen for this movie explained this. I feel like I just got Drew Barrymore'd. You know when you watch the first Scream movie, and back in the day when that movie first came out, she was heavily in the press. She is literally the face on the poster of the movie. She is the most famous person in the cast, and you're watching this movie and you're like, oh my god, Drew Barrymore is in it, and then she dies? And she's not in the movie anymore? That's kind of how I felt with Aubrey Plaza in this film. I knew next to nothing about this movie. What I did know about it is the movie is called My Old Ass, and the Aubrey Plaza character in this film is the older version of the main character in this movie. So I would imagine the titular character, technically speaking, would have a big role in this film, and I feel like she's in the movie for maybe 10 minutes. Don't get me wrong, I do think that she has a very impactful 10 minutes, and I think that she kind of symbolizes something that's a little bit deeper, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I do think that, like, it's crazy to me that every single recollection I have of people reviewing this movie, people posting about this movie, people promoting this movie, was all, hey, this is Aubrey Plaza, and she's barely in the movie. That's insane to me. That is crazy. That being said, I do really like this movie, and it is a slice of life film, and I think that me thinking that it was a sci-fi movie might have ruined it a little bit for me, because I was going into it like, oh my god, there's going to be time travel elements, because for people who do not know, some of my favorite movies of all time are coming-of-age movies, rom-coms, sci-fis, and I love whenever you can do like a rom-com sci-fi, or you can do like a coming-of-age sci-fi type things. Like, I feel like there's a lot of cool, like, Meet the Robinsons technically is a sci-fi coming-of-age movie, so I think that there's a lot of elements to it that are really interesting, that you really like, and that are really fun. But also, sorry, my dog started whining, so I had to go check on her. But I think that there's a lot of elements of this movie that are interesting, and the fact that the sci-fi stuff is barely a part of it low-key disappointed me just a little bit. But also, I think that this movie actually uses what I thought was going to be a sci-fi element as more of like a self-doubt, more of a representation of you being too overprotective about, what could potentially go wrong, that you forget to live in the moment and really enjoy what is awesome about life. I do think that at the end of the day, Aubrey Plaza is just like kind of a figment of her imagination of, hey, what could my future be? And it's kind of like when you watch, is it The Christmas Carol? And it's like, here's like the ghost of future you, and they're just like miserable and upset and alone, and everything about it is just like super depressing. And they're constantly telling you like, hey, be careful, this might be you one day. I feel like Aubrey Plaza was supposed to be that. It was supposed to be like, here's the bad version of you who's constantly like too afraid to fall in love because you know that one day that love is not gonna like exist anymore. And somebody who's like, you gotta spend all this time with your family because that's what's really important. And I do like that message. I do think like, spending time with your family is really an important thing, especially when you're like about to go off to college, and like the amount of time that you're gonna spend with your family now, statistically speaking at least, really, really declines. Most people, after they turn 20, the amount of time that they spend with their family is like, you've already spent the majority of the time that you will in your entire lifetime with your family. It's gone. So you really need to spend that time that you have with them still and never take it for granted. And I do think that that's a fun message for this movie. I do think that as far as deep topics, this movie nails it. Some things that make life beautiful, the unpredictability of it. I like the fact that there's a future version of the main character here, and she's telling you, hey, don't do this thing, hey, don't do that thing, hey, don't do this thing. And then life kind of finds a way. She's trying to avoid doing certain things, but they still work out in the end, because sometimes life happens a specific way for a reason, and there are people that will come into your life that you need to meet. You need to interact with them. You need to have these relationships with them. Sometimes the relationships fall apart, and that's also meant to happen, because at the end of the day, embracing the imperfections of life is what makes life beautiful. And I think that this film does an incredible job of showcasing that. I think that this movie has a couple of incredibly deep conversations. Is his name literally Chad? I was like, I'm about to say the male love interest name, and then I was like, nope, that's the most basic white guy name ever. That couldn't possibly it. This movie, one thing that I will say, I'm talking about positives right now, but one negative I will say, a straight awakening movie? A straight awakening movie. That's wild. Hey, that's crazy. Hey, that's kind of insane. I've seen a couple of people have given this movie like 1 star, and it's because of that, and they're like kind of like pissed because like this movie could have been a great LGBT movie. And I will say this, the fact that people who are members of the LGBT community are hating on this movie because it's a bisexual character realizing that they're bisexual and they're not just 100% lesbian, I think that that's kind of ironic, because as somebody who, for a short period of time, thought I was a bisexual, and as somebody who is best friends with a bisexual and has dated a lot of bisexuals, they are constantly scrutinized by the LGBT community, and they're constantly given so much shit, and a lot of times, like, people will treat them almost like they're outsiders. Like, I've been to Pride events where, like, my friends or whatever is just like, oh yeah, I'm bi, and then, like, people literally will start treating them differently. So the fact that there are some LGBTQ people out there who are absolutely ripping this movie to shred because it's a bisexual character realizing that they're bisexual, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I definitely see that some people out there can probably resonate with this, because I'm sure there are people out there who are also on the same boat of like, I thought I was only into women, but oh my god, there are some decent men out there. And one thing that I particularly like about this movie, I want to give them credit for the casting. The Chad actor is a guy that looks pretty. Like, I don't know how better to say that, but like a lot of bi women are into women that look like they're handsome and guys that are pretty, and I think that they nailed that. I think that they did a really good job with that. So overall, I liked this movie. I thought it was a really great romance movie. I will say, usually I do really like rom-coms, and I do think that this movie wasn't like funny enough to like call it a rom-com, but I could see it almost being there. And I also really think that this movie's a great coming-of-age movie. And there are some interesting snippets of this movie. I think that the usage of drugs and mushrooms in this film, fascinating. I'm not going to get too far into it in case you guys haven't seen the movie, because you definitely should experience. There's a musical scene at the end of the movie, and I think you should experience it for yourself, because watching this movie and then it randomly breaking out into that was interesting. It was very fascinating. One of the side actresses, I believe her name is Maddie Ziegler, I'm pretty sure she was a famous dancer at some point, and you watch this movie and you get to that scene and you're like, they casted Maddie Ziegler, they're like, we gotta let her dance at some point. That's kind of what it felt like, but that was a very weird scene. And yeah, so overall, I like this movie. Kind of feels like a slice of life movie. It feels like a kind of movie that doesn't get made anymore. I think that Matt Damon and I was going to say Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, but I feel like mostly Matt Damon constantly talks about how movies like this aren't getting made anymore because of the fact that because physical media is dying, there's no return on investment, and a lot of times like movies can afford to make low budget movies like this and put it into theaters, but because it is so expensive to put a movie in theaters and you're not making like extra money for, I'm Wait, what am I talking about right now? Either way, this feels like a kind of movie that's not really made anymore, and I feel like if you're somebody who's like a fan of like some of the 90s slices of life movies, I think you would really enjoy this. I think that it's kind of similar to movies like Good Will Hunting, The Edge of 17, stuff like that. I feel like it's good. I don't think it quite reaches the levels of those movies, but I think that there are definitely elements of it that work relatively as well. There's a couple of emotional sequences. There's a scene at the very end that kind of reveals like why the future version of the character has kind of been so negative and has been like, hey, don't do this thing, hey, don't do that thing. And I think that that scene is really emotional. And overall, I think that this movie is fun. I don't think that I will really remember it or be thinking about it at all in the next couple of months. Like, I think that this is one of those things where, like, me watching 100 movies in 100 days, this is a movie that 100% after watching 3 or 4 more movies, I will not think about at all. That being said, is that a bad thing? Who knows? But yeah, so to talk about if this movie is underrated, overrated, it's kind of hard to say because part of the reason I watched this movie is because people are constantly saying it's underrated, and I kind of think it's properly rated as an underrated movie. Like, I do think that, like, I could see why people would say it's relatively good and people should watch it. In the year that it came out, it was a solid movie. Especially because it came out in a year where one of my favorite movies that came out that year was a movie called Snack Shack. And I could see this movie being, like, compared to a movie like that. So, does it deserve to be, you know, talked about as, like, one of the top 20 movies that came out the year that it came out? I definitely don't think so. But calling it underrated, I think, is okay. But yeah, so if I had to give this movie a grade on a scale of 1 to 100, I'm going to give this movie a solid 77. I think that it's a little slow in a lot of parts. I feel like the fact that it wasn't a sci-fi did kind of let me down a little bit. And I do think that, like, they spend way too much time building up the fact that, like, the main character's future version of themselves does not want a certain thing to happen. And then the reveal as to why, I feel like, is, like, so out of nowhere and not really worth the hammering over your head of, hey, don't do this thing, hey, don't do this thing, hey, don't do this thing, hey, don't do this thing. And then they reveal why you don't do the thing. And it's like, oh. But yeah, that being said, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys, and I will hopefully be back with a regular, normal one of these videos tomorrow. And yeah, so I will see you guys then. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.